Welcome back to Sawtooth Tactical. My SBR identifies as a pistol. In this woke day and age, that should be enough, right? Well, unfortunately, it's not. And we've been documenting this ATF new pistol brace rule week after week after week on this channel now. But one thing I gotta say, the ATF is getting their ass kicked in so many ways, so many lawsuits right now. We're going to talk about them because there's a lot going on. Governors are refusing that their states can help the ATF enforce these rules. Congressmen are putting out bills against the rule. There's a lot of good stuff going on. And hopefully one, if not multiple, of these fights against the ATF will prove to get rid of this pistol brace rule. Before we get started on this video, I'd like you to subscribe to Sawtooth Tactical and hit that bell notification. And let's talk about how the ATF is getting their ass kicked. So if you guys have been following my channel for any period of time, you know that I feel very strongly about this ATF pistol brace rule. And not just because I own 3 pistol brace firearms that I don't want to have to register as NFA items. It's also because this is highly unconstitutional and it's an attack on our rights under the Second Amendment. And the more that we let them take away our rights, eventually we'll have no Second Amendment rights left. And the Second Amendment is what protects all of our other rights. It's very necessary for the freedom that our country was founded on and for us to be able to live as free Americans. So I feel very strongly about this. I feel like it's a way for them to get a gun registry, which has been illegal for them to make for years. But if they're able to get this rule into effect within this 120-day period that we are already well into, well, then if everyone actually complied, they would get probably the majority of gun owners in the country onto a registry, getting exactly what they want. And as we know from history, registration leads to confiscation. In every single country that has implemented a gun registry, it is followed not very long after with gun confiscation, and then a tyrannical regime has it's very easy for them to take over and to run your life. And we need to avoid that at all costs in the greatest country on earth, the United States of America. So that is why I feel so strongly against this pistol brace rule. Also, it affects me personally, as I'm sure it affects most of you that are watching this video. So there are a lot of things. I've documented a few of them in past videos. Bills to abolish the ATF, bills to get rid of the NFA, to take short-barreled rifles off the NFA, to take suppressors off the NFA. But as you know, and as I've said in the past, these bills don't have a very good chance of passing because of who we have in the White House. And the way the lawmaking system works, it eventually goes to him to either write into law, to sign into law, or to veto. And we know what Joe Biden would do to any bill that is against gun control, as he wants to get rid of all semi-automatic firearms, which would be every firearm behind me except for that one. So semi-automatic firearms are necessary for us. The whole reason the Second Amendment was written, we need to have the same weaponry that our military does. And although we don't have fully automatic firearms because of the NFA and the GCA, we at least need to keep our semi-automatic ones for now, forever. But anyway, what I want to talk about today is how the ATF is getting their ass kicked in court, because they are. There are a lot of lawsuits out there. West Virginia versus the EPA is something that I think is going to help us, and it's been mentioned in some of these more recent lawsuits. But it's basically, there was a decision against Chevron deference saying that, Congress has to explicitly tell one of these 3-letter agencies that they have deference over certain decisions, and those decisions can't be decisions that can put the American people in prison or fined many thousands of dollars, which is exactly what this rule does. So there's also Watterson versus the ATF is one that I want to talk about today. But there's also the lawsuit with G.O.A. in Texas, the one with FRAC and 25 other states suing the ATF. There are a number of high-profile lawsuits right now suing the ATF. Now, what I've been concerned about is the fact that, litigation takes time, and many of these lawsuits probably won't get a decision until after this 120-day period is up, in which case either we have made the decision to comply and to register, and there is no turning back on that, even if the rule gets overturned, or we have, by that point, become felons, which is also not a good thing. So, Watterson versus the ATF. This is one of the newer ones that I've heard of recently, and one of the things that I really like about this one is that they are asking they're asking the judge to make a decision before March 2nd, 2023, which would be 60 days into the 120-day period, which is when the ATF said that they will start enforcing this rule, even though it's only halfway through the period that we technically have to, comply with their rule and to register our illegal SBRs, braced pistols, whatever you decide to call them these days. They said that they will start enforcing this rule after 60 days, and that is getting closer and closer with every minute. Unfortunately, the court said that they will not make a ruling by March 2nd, but that by March 24th, they will decide at least whether there will be a temporary injunction put into place which would stay the rule at least until they have made a final decision, gone through the court process. So March 24th, 2023, which is about 6 weeks away right now, 5 weeks away, we will know at least whether we need to comply within the 120 days or not, and what that means to us. And then, that whole litigation, that whole process is still going to take place, but we could possibly have an injunction in place by then, and that would be great news. But in the meantime, there's other great things happening. So, the Montana Governor, Greg Gianforte, he sent a letter to Attorney General Merrick Garland saying that he will not enforce this pistol brace rule in the state of Montana, and that Montana's law enforcement is not allowed to help the ATF to enforce this rule. And there's actually great legal reasons why this actually works. And those legalities work in more states than just Montana. So if we can get more state governors to agree to do the same thing, along with, 25 states suing the ATF and the Department of Justice and all these other lawsuits that I just mentioned, we have, I feel like a really good chance for any judge that has any brains to look at this and be like, if there are half of the states in the union against this, if there's all these lawsuits against this, and they all have really, really good arguments as well, then maybe this is something that we need to take a really serious look at, because it's not constitutional, and maybe we'll have a decision in our favor. But I want to talk about why this works, what's going on with Governor Gianforte in Montana, and why I'm hoping that this same thing will happen in more states. I believe it will. So, in 2021, Montana passed a law prohibiting police officers, state employees, and employees of any political subdivision of the state from enforcing, assisting in the enforcement of, or otherwise cooperating in the enforcement of any new federal ban on firearms, magazines, or ammunition. A federal ban is defined as any federal law, executive order, rule, or regulation that was enacted after January 1st, 2021, that infringes upon, calls in question, or prohibits, restricts, or requires individual licensure, very important with this, or registration of the purchase, ownership, possession, transfer, or use of any firearm, any magazine, or other ammunition feeding device, or other firearm accessory, which is what these pistol braces are. So there is law in place to support what he's doing already. The pistol brace registration rule clearly falls under the law's definition of a federal ban. So this is a quote from the governor of Montana, Greg Gianforte. Our right to keep and bear arms is integral, whichever way you want to say it, to Montana's and our nation's rich heritage, and this rule directly violates our long-held traditions. He's talking about the pistol brace rule. The rule also ignores the design and intent of stabilizing braces to help disabled veterans fire large format pistols, which is what it was originally designed and intended for. So, 3 other states, Missouri, Arizona, and Idaho, my home state, also have laws on the books that prohibit state or local enforcement of specific gun control, including this pistol brace registration scheme. So, the fact that I live in Idaho, this makes me sleep a little bit better at night, knowing that local and state law enforcement will not help the ATF to enforce this pistol brace rule. And the reason why that will work is this. The federal government relies heavily on state cooperation to implement and enforce almost all of its laws, regulations, and acts, including gun control. By simply withdrawing this necessary cooperation, states and localities can nullify many federal actions in effect. As noted by the National Governors Association during the partial government shutdown of 2013, states are partners with the federal government on most federal programs. With just a few thousand enforcement agents, the ATF doesn't have the personnel or resources to enforce its gun control regulations without massive support from the states. That means every time a state refuses to cooperate with the enforcement of federal gun control, including this new rule, it sets the foundation for the people to nullify those acts in practice and effect. Based on James Madison's advice for states and individuals in Federalist number 46, a refusal to cooperate with officers of the Union represents an extremely effective method to bring down federal gun control measures because most enforcement actions rely on help, support, and leadership from state and local governments. Basically, what that all means is that if the states say that they won't help the ATF enforce this stuff, the ATF is going to have a really, really hard time enforcing it in those states. They just don't have enough agents, enough personnel to be able to go around to everyone's house and check if they have pistol braces. Now, unfortunately for someone like me with a YouTube channel with now thousands of subscribers, and I'm hoping many thousand more soon, they could find out about what I have pretty easily. So I'm going to have to make a decision on that. Hopefully, one of these lawsuits will take care of that decision for me, and I won't have to make that decision, and for all of you as well. But at least in the meantime, if you do live in Montana, Arizona, Missouri, or Idaho, maybe you won't have to worry about this anyway. Just don't go posting your stuff all over social media. That's something I can't take back at this point. It is what it is. But again, we are not even 60 days into the 120-day period where we have to either, register our firearms or become felons. And so hopefully we will get some kind of temporary or permanent injunction before, this pistol brace rule actually goes into full effect. I'm feeling very optimistic about it at this point. With so much opposition to this pistol brace rule, I feel like we have a really good chance of actually, winning this fight, which would be a great thing. And what I'm really hoping will happen is, because a lot of these lawsuits, they make arguments on many different grounds. And some of them are saying that, this pistol brace rule is unconstitutional, but so is having SBRs on the NFA. And because if these have been SBRs the whole time, as the ATF is claiming, and there really is no evidence of them being used in any significant amount of violent crime, well, then that means that SBRs haven't been a problem this whole time. And as we've talked about in the past, when the NFA was created, it was actually created to outlaw handguns. SBRs were only put on the National Firearms Act as a way to keep people from getting around the ban on handguns. Well, handguns were removed from the NFA before it went into law, but they forgot to take SBRs off it. And those arguments have been presented in at least one, I think maybe two of these lawsuits. So maybe we'll get SBRs taken off of the NFA. And maybe when we get a Republican in the White House again, if we get control of, the House and the Senate, maybe we'll get things like the Hearing Protection Act or the Short Act passed, and we'll get, silencers, suppressors, cans taken off the NFA. Maybe we won't have to go through such a ridiculous, lengthy process in order to get something that quiets our guns down, or in order to put a different piece of plastic on the back of our shorter barreled firearms. That would make a whole lot of sense. And unfortunately, we're in a world where things don't make a lot of sense. But I do believe that the ATF, just took too big of a bite out of our rights on this rule. And maybe it's going to come back to kick them in the ass, and that we might actually get SBRs off the NFA out of all this. Now, maybe I'm just being optimistic and unrealistic, but, if we all are loud about this, if we support those who support us, those who are suing the ATF, those people in government that are, introducing bills against the ATF, well, if we make enough noise, maybe some of this stuff will actually come through, and things will actually change for the better for once. The Bruen decision has set a great precedent, and if we can keep building on that, maybe we can get more and more of our rights back. That would be a fantastic day. And I believe that something like that is coming. That's why I'm saying that, the ATF is getting their ass kicked. Now, I started this video by saying my SBR identifies as a pistol. Well, I got this shirt from Bunker Branding. I actually saw it on a Demolition Ranch video, and I was like, I have to get that. For one thing, this shirt, it literally has almost the same firearm that I have right here. Same Geisley trigger, same Radian safety, same Radian charging handle. It's a short-barreled AR. It's an AR pistol. It's got a brace on it, just like mine. But the ATF is now saying that these are SBRs. Which, hopefully, this is what the fight is all about. But if you guys want to get this shirt, check out Bunker Branding. I think it's an awesome shirt. I had to get it. Anyway, from Sawtooth Tactical, stay strapped or get clapped.